The title of this video is Saturn. How to tell if your Saturn is weak or strong. So if you are looking this video, this is basically upon request. After many readings, I've noticed throughout my clients that almost everybody has problems with Saturn. Why? Because we live in a Saturn-ruled world. Surely people shouldn't have a problem with Saturn. Why do I make this video? Because Saturn is a part of you. Saturn is a function inside your body, inside your mind, inside your life. As within, so without. If your Saturn is weak, life will punish you. Bad things will happen to you. That's the whole function of Saturn, to challenge you, to test you, to see if you are strong. And guess what? Most people are not strong. Most people are weak. They belong to the loser category, not because there's something wrong with them, but because they choose to identify as weak. And how do you identify as weak? If you don't allow yourself to make boundaries, if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't make your own decisions, if it's always your circumstances, always your environment, always other people that somehow are in control of your life, because Saturn is that control. How much control do you have? How much strength do you have? If you feel like you don't control your life, your Saturn is by definition weak. But to understand weakness is to understand the identity that fuels it. And that is something that you can see actually in your chart. If you first take into account how your Saturn is placed. What sign is your Saturn in? Is it in detriment, like Aries or Gemini? In the signs where Saturn is prone to be weak, because Saturn tests your communication. Saturn tests your identity. Saturn tests that part of you that needs to be strong. And only if you have been through all those tests and you come out the other side, do you actually get the rewards. And if Saturn is in a weak house, like houses 3 or houses 5 or 2, in the houses of self-expression, Saturn tests your self-expression. But where does the test come from? Is the universe just randomly throwing you curveballs to provoke you, to force you to change? Well, it's the father. The father represents Saturn. So if the father is stifling you and your expression, if he is challenging your self-worth and he says you're not good enough unless you do this, Saturn will be in the houses 5, 3 or 2 by default. If the father challenges your beliefs, challenges your spirituality, challenges your view of the world and your mental health, and Saturn will be in Pisces or Sagittarius, the houses 12 or 9. So therefore Saturn shows you, what does the father test in you? The father demands that you control this aspect of your life, that you are an authority of this. The father demands strength. But should Saturn be weak in you, then it's likely because your father was not demanding strength, he was demanding rigidity, stifling, self-suppression, crystallization, and the freeze response. Saturn in its shadow is the freeze response in the body. When you are just like, I guess I'm not doing this, I guess I'm not saying anything, I'm not doing anything because I might be wrong. Saturn is fear. And fear is a necessary function. You need to be afraid of the lion in the den. Because if you go in there, you might die. So fear protects you. Saturn is a protective function. So it's the fear of the father. What are you afraid of telling the father, sharing with the father? That is Saturn. And it's because the father demands, expects something very specific. It's either very rigid and pathological or mentally ill. Or something that's good work, good discipline, well done. The father may reward you if you excel in that area. But the father will inevitably, with Saturn, punish you if you don't do well. So this is just the basics of Saturn out of the way. This is very boring to me, to talk about the basics. But I have to talk about this because most people don't even know that. And if you're watching this, you probably could be new to this as well. To this psychology, because chances are nobody talks about it, so I have to do it, unfortunately. I have to do the dirty work. So here we are, out of the way. So how do you know if your Saturn is strong? Saturn is your ability to cope with reality, to accept responsibility for what you are doing, to tolerate your own mistakes, while at the same time correcting them. If you are good at tolerating your mistakes and correcting them, Saturn is strong. So look at your Saturn in its house and sign. If your Saturn is in the third house of communication, but you struggle with communication and you don't take responsibility for it, then your Saturn is weak. If you do take responsibility and you do fix your communication problems consistently throughout your life, you're just getting better and better and better until eventually it translates into your career, where you may be a teacher or a public speaker or a writer, then Saturn is strong. But if you are stuck and you're not working on those problems, then the career will be blocked as well. So Saturn is your profession, your status. What are you known for? So for example, I have Saturn in the 9th house. So what I'm known for is spiritual teaching, higher education, university study type of knowledge. This is university level knowledge. So therefore my Saturn is strong because my career is working. Everything works, everything is fine, everything is strong because what I know, I share and I get paid. The universe, the world, rewards me with physical substance for my Saturn. So therefore, it's very easy to tell. Your Saturn is strong when you are getting physically rewarded for whatever that Saturn is about. If you don't know what it's about, look at this house, look at the sign that Saturn occupies. Right now, Saturn is in Pisces. So collectively, before Saturn goes into retrograde on the 29th of June 2024, as I'm making this video, it's stationed right now as I'm making this video. And right now, it's in Pisces, conjunction the moon. So I thought, I guess this is the best time to make this video and talk about the fact that most people have a weak Saturn. And we need to talk about it because most people are most people. So statistically, your Saturn, as you are watching, will be weak too. If it's not weak, then you probably don't even need this video and you're just looking for validation. Which of course I'm happy to give you if you're like me and your Saturn is strong. But if you're not like me and your Saturn is weak, then you need instruction to fix that, to fix your career, fix your karma, step into your dharma. Saturn is your dharma. It's your highest achievement, your higher self, actualized in the physical, in the flesh, crystallized to last throughout time. where no matter how long you do this, you will never tire. You will never stop. Saturn is commitment to the goal, to achieve, to maintain, to stay, to succeed. If you are bad at that in the house, the area of life that Saturn occupies in your chart, your Saturn is weak. So what does it mean? Does it mean that, oh no, I have a weak Saturn, so I am doomed? Obviously not. Because I used to have a weak Saturn. I used to never make boundaries, never trust my intuition, never trust my dreams, thinking, yeah, I'm having a déjà vu because in science they tell me that your brain is playing a trick on you. Gaslighting myself. Gaslighting my gift of prophecy. You know, Saturn in my 9th house in Pisces is gift of prophecy. I get visions of a future all the time throughout my life. It's normal for me. But I used to gaslight myself, telling myself this is just a delusion. So this is also the case if your Saturn is weak. You will sabotage yourself. You will tell yourself all kinds of lies about why this isn't exactly what it is. That gift, that power, that strength that you have will get locked in a box, stuck, never to be achieved, never to be actualized. So Saturn will punish you. And it punishes you especially during your Saturn returns. And Saturn is making a significant aspect in your chart at age 29 or at age 50. In your 50s, you get this second Saturn return. If you're watching this, you probably already had your first. So if you can remember, if it was a fruitful time or a bad time, if it's fruitful, it's because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Supposed to be doing. That's very important to understand. You are supposed to do something. Yeah, you're not born with a clean slate. Forget the matrix programming that tells you that you have free will. Your will is not free. Your will is given by God, by the divine. You're not God. The only thing that's free is God. You are a spark of God, as you are currently occupying this form. Of course, once you leave this form, you're back to your freedom, back to your free will. But as long as you are in this form, you are stuck with your dharma. You are stuck with your purpose. You are stuck with your destiny. That is what Saturn always teaches us, that eventually we have to pay for our mistakes. We have to pay our dues, our debts. We have to. There is something we have to do. If you struggle with the term I have to, your Saturn is probably weak. If you get easily triggered, if somebody tells you you have to do this, your Saturn is probably weak. Weakness is not tolerated by Saturn, because weakness means you're not accepting your destiny. You're fighting it because you believe you are a victim. But for some reason, all these bad things happening to you are just to torture you, just to punish you, just for no reason at all. So lack of awareness, lack of understanding, lack of wisdom, lack of this happened for a reason. I know the reason, which is why I am in tune with my destiny. Those who are not in tune with their destiny, victims, blaming circumstances, not being in control, not being in charge. So if the father discouraged you of being in charge, if the father punished you for taking the initiative, if the father didn't want you to make your own choices and just was always criticizing you, always punishing you for just doing what you're supposed to do, then Saturn is likely going to be weak too. So Saturn is the fate you can't escape from, the fate you have to fulfill, the contract you agreed to. Guess what? You're surrounded by contracts. Your hair is either blonde or it's black. Your eyes are either brown or blue. Your body is either male or female. Contracts everywhere. You are committed to form. You are committed to the physical. That commitment is Saturn. So sign and house show you what you are stuck with. Yes, stuck, motherfucker. If you try to convince yourself that you're not stuck and somehow being stuck is a bad thing, your Saturn is weak. Yes, I'm using this language on purpose to trigger on purpose. It's a therapy technique. It's a healing technique. It's supposed to heal people who can't stand being committed to something, who can't stand staying in one place and staying for that for a very long time. People who suffer from enmeshment trauma, incest, people who have problems with engulfment, problems with boundaries, where there were no boundaries in the family, also weak Saturn. Saturn is the inner authority. But the authority is not yours, motherfucker. It's given. The divine gives you authority. To understand that is very difficult for the conventional person. Most people don't get this. They are not hip on the knowledge. The knowledge is that in order to make decisions in your life, where are the decisions coming from? Where is your will coming from? Are you deciding to want something? What a ridiculous concept. Whoever thought that they could consciously choose what they want, they're delusional. You want because the want is given. Just like the soul is given. You have a soul. You can't decide to not have a soul. Can't decide to be a different gender. Of course, you can create a facade. You can create a mimic. You can pretend that you're something else. And that's what most people are doing. Most people are pretending to be something they are not. And that is why most people have a weak Saturn. Saturn is about the commitment to the self, to the divine mission, the holy quest, the pilgrimage, the journey that we all have to undertake, willingly or not. Of course you're willing. Of course you're willing, but if society tells you that you're not supposed to want that, you're not supposed to do that, Saturn is under attack. Saturn is the pressure of the divine. But there's also pressure of society. And that is why this world is ruled by Saturn. Society is ruled by Saturn. Because we are living in a shadow of Saturn. We are living in a world where peer pressure, the age of Aquarius, the age of peer pressure, don't get it twisted, yeah? Thinking it's my progress. If you think emotional unavailability and ignoring your feelings for the purpose of the group mind, the hive mind, the Borg cube, is a good thing, then yes, enjoy your age of Aquarius. Saturn rules that age. Saturn rules this world. Saturn rules most people. And what are most people doing? Being delusional. Living their life as slaves. And this is supposed to be good for us? I don't think so. What's good for you is to connect back to what separates you from society. What makes you an outsider? Where you can feel how society tries to mold you, to put you into that Saturn black box, that Saturn black cube. That's a symbol they are using over and over again. Symbol of a black cube, the Borg cube, the matrix computer. Why? Because Saturn is a structure that you can't escape from. And they want to make a prison. They want to limit your choices. To make it so that you have to work a 9-to-5 job that you hate, that you have to be married, that you have to have children, or that you have to pay your taxes. right? You have to pay your rent. You have to pay your mortgage. All these traps. That is not what Saturn is about. That's a twisted version of Saturn. Yeah, so if you watch conspiracy videos, if you watched, which is good, all true. If you watch David Icke, which I really love, and he tells you how Saturn is demonic or evil, no. How Saturn is used is evil. Because society is given the weak version, the false version of Saturn. This video is supposed to connect you to what Saturn actually is, which is a divine cosmic blueprint, not some, oh, I have to work. I have to, but I don't want to. Of course you want to. You want Saturn. You're craving Saturn. You're longing for it, but you don't know. What are you longing for? You're longing for marriage. With something that will always give you, that will never let you down. And that's Saturn. So what never lets me down is my desire to teach, my desire to study, my desire to understand what this is. That's why I have Saturn in the 9th house, in Pisces. Never letting my mental health down, no matter what happens. No matter what happens, Saturn remains a fortress with its gates barred and heavily guarded where nobody can enter. Where you are in charge, your castle, your vanguard, your wall, your wall of Troy, your protection, your shield against evil, against negative forces that try to distract you from your mission. Saturn is the part of you that never lets you down. A guardian angel, a white wizard, Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, guiding the companions to fulfill the mission to destroy the ring. The ring? You mean Saturn? The false Saturn, the false ring. Yes. But to destroy the false ring is to be committed to another. You can't say no to one thing without saying yes to something else. So Saturn is when the baby says the first word that it ever learns. No. The most important word you can ever hear in your life is no. Saturn is that no. No, I will not compromise this. No, I will not negotiate this. No, I will not stray from this. So then they call you difficult. Then they call you, oh, so you're so uptight. You think you're better than us. You're so arrogant to believe that you are better. So you keep doing that. And you keep saying no to us. Keep saying no to the hive mind, to the Borg cube, to you will be assimilated. Yes, saying no to assimilation is Saturn in your chart. So for an example, I have Saturn in Pisces. I always say no to anything that compromises my mental health. If you give me a job, if you give me money, if you bribe me, coerce me, or intimidate me, if you push me to sacrifice my mental health, I will not do it. I will not do it. If you push me to sacrifice my education, like my knowledge, to accept a belief over the actual fact, I will not. So I'm allergic to beliefs. Yeah, like Osho says, I don't believe in believing. I know. And if I don't know, I doubt. And when I'm in doubt, I'm still looking, still questioning, still searching, still learning, still expanding. To be in doubt is to be in expansion. So therefore, a weak Saturn would be somebody who can't tolerate doubt, who can't tolerate being questioned, who can't tolerate being challenged, which is a narcissist in essence. Which is why, of course, narcissists and avoidant attachment style, pathological people, most of the time have a weak Saturn. Very weak Saturn. You can't question them, you can't challenge them, you can't argue with them. In that area that Saturn occupies in their chart. So, to have a strong Saturn means that no matter when you are challenged, no matter when you are questioned, doesn't impress you, doesn't do anything. It's the part of you that doesn't bend, but doesn't yield, doesn't give in, never suppressed, never under somebody else's control. So, if you look at your Saturn and you're asking yourself, is this under my control? Or are other people and their pressure controlling that aspect of me? Then you know whether Saturn is strong or weak. Saturn teaches you to take control, to take charge. Are you afraid of taking charge? Are you afraid you could be wrong? Fear of failure is fear of success. It's fear of being challenged, fear of being tested. If you can't allow yourself to be tested, you will never finish the exam. Right? If you can't allow yourself to be tested, you will never finish the exam. So failure, misery, depression, weakness is prominent in those who have a weak Saturn, which of course again is most people. Most people. Are you most people? Are you just a number on a statistic? Another slave in the black box. Something to be fished, to be harvested for louche, to be extracted, to be fed on as food for the imposers. Is that who you are? No. Saturn is your protection against evil. Because Saturn is that shield, that guardian. Says no. I'm not doing that job. I'm not compromising my conviction. I'm not compromising my skill. I am enforcing. And I'm committed to the death. That is why also often there was an association between Saturn and the Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper is Saturn because he has the scythe, right? Like a Saturn symbol is a scythe. It's not the Jesus cross, the demonic ass symbol. It's a scythe. Scythe of harvest. Harvest your soul for louche, or you harvesting the fruit of your labor, the crops, the grains. To be the food for imposers or to enjoy the food yourself. Weak versus strong Saturn. And time feeds you. Time grows what you have to make more. So time is on your side. Time is your ally. When Saturn is strong for you. But when Saturn is weak, you grow weaker with aging. You are not expanding, you are contracting. Saturn is not contracting. Saturn is building. Building that fortress. Not a house of cards. Not a house built on sand. Not a house that's doomed to be destroyed. Not a corpse that's decaying every minute. That's not Saturn. Do you know that in Vedic astrology, it is known that if you have a strong Saturn, you will live long. Time is on your side. So people who don't live long, people who age a little bit too quickly, a little bit too much decay in their face, weak Saturn. People who have baby faces, even as they go older. People who appear childlike and sweet, even when time is supposed to work against them, time is still on their side. While everybody is rotting, you're expanding, you're strengthening, you're fortifying your position. So that position is so strong, you don't need anybody to give control over to them. You are your own boss. You're not in labor. You're not a slave. You work for yourself. So the universe will work for you. As within, so without, remember? If you are on the side of time, if you're working with time, if you're making plans, if you're good in structure, long-term thinking, if your goal is to prevent rather than fix, your Saturn is strong. So for example, I'm thinking about prevention all the time. Actually, most of the things I do is about prevention. I got enough money. I got enough health. I don't need to make these videos. I can just sit on my ass and be on a vacation for years to come. So even if you are rich, even if you're a billionaire, even if you have money in the bank and your health is prosperous, you will still keep earning. You will still keep working on your health, on your body, on your form. Because you will never let it down. Because you are working on prevention. And that prevention is longevity. Which means that time is still working with you, not against you. Because you are preventing, okay? So people who prevent bad things from happening to them and who are very good at preventing, who are very good at risk assessment, good with finances, good with planning, good with avoiding problems, strong Saturn. But people who somehow they're taking unnecessary risks, nothing really lasts, they have been through 10 failed marriages, they have been through countless failed jobs, and nothing is really of longevity. Of course, including themselves, Saturn is weak. So if you know somebody where their life is kind of wonky, where they don't plan for anything, they're just going with the flow. The flow of who? The flow of the body, the flow of the mother, the flow of the father, the flow of society, the conditioning, the matrix. That flow, they have a weak Saturn. Yeah, if you go into spirituality, they say, "Oh, I go with the flow." What flow are you talking about? Because Saturn is the divine flow, the flow that never rests and never changes. It's ongoing, outpouring. So that is why Saturn is actually in joy, they say, whatever the fuck that means, in Pisces and in the 12th house, where it is now. Because Pisces is about the flow. Whose flow? Society? No. Pisces is outside of society. Pisces is an outcast, an asylum, a church, a retreat, going within, connecting to the cosmic forces. So people who have a good connection with Saturn have a good connection with the world. They feel they are a part of the world, they're in service to the world, they are a functioning, well-oiled cog in the machine. They are the part of the computer that's working properly. But people who have a weak Saturn, you can't rely on them. They're never on schedule. They don't come to the appointment. They're kind of stuck in their head. They're always wasting time, wasting energy, because their work is insufficient and ineffective. Their body breaks down prematurely. Their work is full of flaws. The glue is missing. So Saturn is that glue. Binds you. Oh no, I'm being bound. You better be bound. Because if you're not, you're singing Looney Tunes in the Looney Bin. You're dissociating. You're leaving your body. You're supposed to be glued to your body like hard as a rock. Hard as 10,000 pounds of steel. Tall as a mountain. But no matter what life gives you, you will not give in. You will keep going. When your limbs are cut off, when whatever the fuck happens to you, the mission doesn't stop until life forces you to stop. So Saturn is your force, your counter pressure, your counter attack against mankind. Mankind that is corrupt, full of disease, full of mental illness. You are fighting back. It's Saturn. And if your will to fight is weak, if you are in the Borg cube where resistance is futile, your Saturn is weak. So people who often go with a group mind, who are in a herd mentality. So do you finally understand why Saturn is so important? Saturn is the ultimate conspiracy theorist. Oh, you saw David Icke and you thought Saturn was your enemy? Bro, that conspiracy video that you watched, that is Saturn! The conspiracy, the challenge to the system, the questioning, the no. So I hope this makes sense to you, and this clears up some of the mythological false misrepresentation of Saturn. Because I really don't like how people talk about this planet. It's just so negative, you know. It's not for me. This is one of the most positive planets I can possibly imagine. For me, Saturn is the shit. If you're looking for the shit in your chart, the money in the bank, the long life, the wisdom, the strength to overcome your problems, the life force, the protection. Just look at Saturn. Saturn is a malefic. Saturn is the Lord of Chaos, bringing me misery. Oh no, my Saturn return. My Saturn return. It's time to cash in. Time to get money in the bank. Time to improve my health, to be strong. Stronger than ever before. That's a Saturn return. That's what it's supposed to be. Who are you kidding? Yes, of course, the majority of people. Guess with the knowledge about, oh, Saturn is so bad, oh, I'm afraid of Saturn. Where is that coming from? The loser bracket. The majority, the hive mind. Yeah, of course. People don't like Saturn. Because it's people. It's most. So, don't be most. Look at your Saturn, ask yourself, how can I help Saturn? How can I devote myself to this? Am I doing that? Hopefully you are. Hopefully you don't depend on external circumstances sorry, to rule you. That's why Saturn represents government, by the way. That's why it represents people in authority. So people who struggle with authority, do they have a weak Saturn or a strong Saturn? It's a good question, yeah? Because from most of my readings, most of the people I encountered, every time somebody said they had problems with authority, I saw that their Saturn was very weak, actually. Most of the time it was in detriment, in the bad house, in the bad sign. In their life it was just full of chaos. Not because of their trouble with authority, but as within, so without. If you have trouble with external authority, and they are giving you trouble, what about your internal authority? Are you connected to the authority within? That's the question. And if this triggers you, if you're thinking, but George, they're the evil police, the evil government. Oh, true, they're evil. And where is your protection against evil? Is it working? Or are you attracting the attack? Oh no, it's your fault. No, it's not your fault. It's your responsibility to protect yourself. To not even have to deal with authority. You know what I mean? If you're dealing with authority in your life and you're struggling with them, do you even have any faith in your own authority? Who's your protection? Protection is within. If you can't rely on that, then you will always be in fear. Somebody will take away what you have. Somebody will destroy what you created. Because it's a foundation built on sand. That's why. Not because it's other people being in control. If you focus on other people, if you focus on authorities, restricting you, controlling you, taxing you, the locus of control is the same locus that the narcissist is using, which is the locus of control of the victim. And that is a weak Saturn, again. So hopefully this helps to clarify things. So, yeah. Personal questions I'm addressing now. What does it mean when Saturn conjuncts Mars? That's a rough one. Because Bruce Lee died from a brain aneurysm having a hard aspect between Saturn and Mars. You know you can actually die if you don't address Saturn. You can get chronic illness and stuff like that. There's a malefic placement to have Saturn conjunction Mars. Because it means you have to take responsibility for what happens in your friend circle if it's in the 11th house. You have to take responsibility of your desires, and you have to actualize them against all opposition. Because the opposition is very strong and very restrictive. Saturn conjunction Mars means your father didn't like you in your identity and doing what you want. He didn't want you to be angry. So therefore you need to address the authority within. Is your own authority sabotaging your Mars, which is your father, which is society, the black box cube? Or is your Saturn fully in charge, fully representing that Mars of yours? So Saturn basically shows you how to work with that. So let's see here. Can you tell me more about Saturn and the body? The body? Okay, so Saturn rules the bones, of course we know that. What holds your body together is the structure that you can't really change. You know, like you can't change the bone structure of your face unless you are doing mewing or you are taking braces. In both cases, it takes time to change. If you never heard about mewing, you can actually change your facial structure through mewing. But it takes a lot of time. It takes years to do that. So, anything else? Saturn in Aquarius, 4th house. Okay, Saturn is strong in Aquarius, but weak in the 4th house. So if it is in a strong sign, doesn't necessarily mean your Saturn is strong. It just means that your Saturn, it can be emphasized in your life. If it's in a weak house, the emphasis may be difficult to see or understand, like the 4th house. It's a very hidden house. Saturn doesn't like this house because, first of all, it's the family. Saturn hates family. Hates society. If you don't understand that, you don't understand Saturn. Saturn is an enemy of society. Saturn is the one who's in control of society. Guess who hates society the most? Guess who hates you? The government. The government is ruled by Saturn. And in the 4th house, well, 4th house is what you hide from other people. You hide your Saturn. Saturn doesn't like to be hidden. Saturn wants to be like, here I am. You shall not pass. Doof, Gandalf in front of a Balrog. It's what is in front of you. In front of the demon. In front of the devil. People say that Saturn is the devil. False! Saturn is what shields you against the devil. The only thing that stands in the way. When Saturn is gone, you're gone. So having it in a weak position in the hidden house is not recommended. I don't like that. So therefore you have to force yourself to somehow make Saturn visible in that area, in the 4th house. To make it visible in your home life, maybe to work from home, or to be in charge of other people's home. In any way, or shape or form that Saturn can be in the eyes of the public. That means Saturn can deal with scrutiny. Saturn in a occult house 8, 4, 12 is an indicator that the person is hiding from scrutiny, hiding from scandal, trying to get into a job where things are kept private, which is why we often work in psychology behind closed doors. Nobody knows what you're doing. You have client confidentiality. That's why I find Saturn very difficult in a what element house. But you can still do it. You know, it doesn't matter. I have Saturn in Pisces. I do therapy. So who cares? Who cares if it's weak? If you care, if your Saturn is in a hard position, your Saturn is weak. The irony, the double whammy of the fact that if you don't like your Saturn placement doesn't like you. Really? Are you surprised things are not working out? Why don't you like your Saturn? Why don't you feel excited about your Saturn? Why don't you like it that Saturn is in that house, in that sign? It's like, it's kind of funny, you know? It's like the divine is like God gives you a mission, gives you a quest, and you say, I don't like that mission. That's heresy. Are you a heretic? It's the same thing when people say, oh, I don't like that placement in my chart. Okay, that's fine. I understand. I feel that. Okay. But, oh, I will always hate that placement. I am a victim. This placement ruins my life. Just give me a break. Give me a fucking break, please. What's your take on Saturn in Aries? Well, like I said, it's in a weak position. Aries is the identity. Saturn says you need to enforce your identity like there's no tomorrow. Means you're hiding your identity, most likely. That is the suggestion. The suggestion is also that you are controlling your identity because other people are trying to control your identity. Why? Are you a troublemaker? Probably. That's why you have Saturn in Aries, troublemakers. The troublemaker generation. That's the whole point. If you are complaining that you have Saturn in Aries, again, you are reinforcing the fact that Saturn doesn't like you and you don't like it. Okay, Saturn will punish you if you don't like your placement. Oh my goodness, I love that. Don't you like that? I like it. What does it mean when person have Saturn in referred to? Stop. Am I a fucking... Oh yeah, just ask George, just ask anything. Don't care if it has value to other people. Can you ask me something more interesting? What does Saturn in the third house mean? Saturn means that you are hiding your communication because you are afraid that other people will hold it against you. You are afraid of other people challenging your communication. Let them challenge your communication. What are you doing? Let them challenge you and your communication will thrive very easily. Why am I saying that, by the way? Because, as you notice probably, there's a pattern here. Saturn is showing you where you are being your own saboteur. You're trying to self-sabotage. Why am I saying this? Simply for the fact, it's statistics. It's a science. Most people do that. So I'm going to assume that you do that too, because you are growing up surrounded by most people, unless you are living in a forest somewhere, isolated from society. In which case people will not affect you, but then what I say has no meaning. So if you like to work behind the scenes, ask yourself why. Does your Saturn like hiding? Is it agreeing with you? So for example, I have Saturn in Pisces. It's a very hidden position for Saturn. Many things happen that I address that never really see the light of day, but not completely. Like for example, if I get inspiration, if I see a metaphor of what something is, like a symbol, oh, this character trait is that symbol. This behavior is that symbol. Like narcissism is like a negatively aligned snake or a sludge which I like more, not a snake because I like snakes. It's a what is it called? A snail. Narcissus is a snail. So sometimes I think about that. I get these images. A snail, because it's so slow, it's hardly moving. And the moment you touch it, it will go back into its shell. It means it's completely tied to its ego. It's carrying its ego everywhere it goes, carrying its little home, its little house. So I really like the example of a snail. It's also slimy, it's slimy. It never comes out unless it rains. Only comes out when the weather is bad. This is the best definition of a narcissist I could come up with. So that's a way how you can deal with it. If Saturn is in a hidden position, that means what fuels your Saturn may be hidden. Like psychic images, ideas, inspirations, art. But you still have to manifest it physically. If what you are doing is not manifesting physically, your Saturn is weak. You need to work on your Saturn. So I hope this video helps you. This is all the questions I'm going to answer. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, then stick to my channel. And if you're interested in my services, check out my services in the description down below, in my photo album page, or my services page on my page. If you'd like to book a personal reading, you can message me at any given time. That being said, thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.